Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America. Yes, I am Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us on a Saturday morning that will lead into a fun Saturday afternoon because we are in the midst now of the springtime Keeneland meet. Everybody looks forward to that. We'll have some Aqueduct a little bit later this afternoon as well. Gulfstream and Oaklawn with the return of Thorpedo Anna in the Apple Blossom. So that's going to be a lot of fun also. Should be a fun day. And we'll talk a little Apple Blossom later on with Nancy Holthus. They also have the Count Fleet today on their schedule. So a couple of nice stakes down at Oaklawn. But as mentioned, it is another Keeneland Saturday. That means some Keeneland stakes today and some Derby conversation as well with our friend Jeremy Plonk. Jeremy, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. Good to be with you on this fine spring morning.
I was just saying, I walked out the door this morning, snow on the ground, and I'm fighting snow on the drive-in. Middle of April. Come on. I'm ready for springtime already. And I haven't seen, have you seen Lexington weather for today?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's going to be one of the better days of the meet. Upper 50s, but sunny. Finally sunny skies.
And I heard people commenting on Twitter, and I have to agree, after that crazy weather postponement, opening day last Friday and Saturday, the courses dried out very nicely. The main course looked pretty good a couple of days later, and we got back on the card for the full card, back on the turf for the full card sooner rather than later. So hats off to the folks down in Keeneland for overcoming a couple of crazy days of weather.
Yeah, and that's one of those unintended consequences of the polytrack era. The drainage system they put in for the polytrack was kept when they went back to dirt. And it's phenomenal. And so that's really been a help to them.
People can find your selections on the Keeneland website. You're part of the consensus box, but there's another page where you have full card selections with comments. Also, update people, because I know you do a preview for the Keeneland card on YouTube as well. Update when people can look for that.
Yeah, 8:30 Eastern every night before the next day's racing. So it's the Keeneland look ahead. You can go to at Keeneland Official on YouTube, the official Keeneland page. Also, you can follow it on X at Keeneland Racing and at Horse Player Now. We stream live there at 8:30 or pick it up, on demand thereafter. But we preview the full card each and every night, go into detail, about a 45, 50-minute podcast, and go through all the races and everything you need to know to get set up for the next day's racing. So it's been a lot of fun to do those. I've been calling them 8 crazy nights this week, Seth, because
oh, that's right.
We've done 8 straight days of Keeneland racing from Sunday to Saturday, or Sunday to Sunday straight through. We've got the 8th and final of 8 crazy nights tonight, and then we get to take a night or two off.
That's right. I wasn't even thinking of it. Went straight through with the Monday and Tuesday cards this week, and it was kind of fun to have some grade ones staring us in the face beginning of the week. That was interesting, and there was the grade 1 yesterday as well. Certainly the Chad Brown runner, a solid comeback there. And just talk a little bit about the first week of the meet. Carl Spackler yesterday, as I say, looked very good. I was on with Steve Bick on Wednesday, and I said, as I've handicapped the card, I give an extra look to the Turfway runners because I think sometimes they get overlooked with the surface switch, which is understandable. But also I think if you go back more than a couple of years, there was a class difference that I don't think is quite as strong anymore. I think the winter has improved as far as class at Turfway. And as I said this on the Big Show on Wednesday, there was 4 okay Turfway winners at the meet at that point. But, man, it was a prescient call on Wednesday because the Turfway runners were hitting at big prices, certainly Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah, there were some crazy prices. I mean, we had a couple $100 horses mixed in there. The Turfway horses are, disrespected at the windows generally by the national simulcast audience, and that's a good thing if you can catch up with them. There's some spots where they run better than others historically. You want to try to kind of find those, and that's what we try to weave through and pick out. The Turfway horses have gotten better, no question about it, over the past winter. And Oaklawn running longer into the spring, right? They run all the way to Derby Day now. We don't see the Oaklawn influence at Keeneland that we used to see There are some horses from Oaklawn who come up, but not like there used to be in numbers. So that changes the dynamic a little bit too, right? The winners have to come from somewhere. And if there are, let's say, 6 or 7 Oaklawn winners for the meet that aren't coming from there, Turfway's picking up some of that slack, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought of that. But that used to be a big angle for me. The Oaklawn runners used to seem to come out of that meet with a lot of fitness, and no matter where they went. Yeah. But you're right. It affects Keeneland Spring because they keep going longer now until Derby Day. All right, let's jump in. A couple of nice stakes today, so we'll get some thoughts there. And then you have the countdown to the Crown package continuing. People can catch that every Friday. Highly recommend it. So we'll jump in to some Derby conversation as well. But speaking of Derby, it is a points race. Race number 9 at Keeneland today, the Lexington, Grade 3, mile and a 16th. I tend to agree. There was a headline in the Racing Forum yesterday that said, and I'm paraphrasing, Lexington likely to have more impact on the Preakness than the Derby. I think that's certainly the case this year. But let's take a look at the field. Nice, interesting field in here. And again, it's kind of 3-year-old second stringers, I think is fair to say. But some interesting horses that will play into the division, I think, as the year goes along. I pulled up a replay going back to January and looking at your picks. I was interested and happy to see you were on the same boat. Hypnus, in the debut back at the fairgrounds in January, I thought won in a fashion that said he's going to be a nice horse. Followed it up with a couple of performances that didn't quite live up to that. But I'm going to go back to him on this afternoon in the 9th. The Lexington Prater is interesting for Chad Brown. Gusker for Brendan Walsh, if I'm pronouncing that right. Bullard coming in for the West Coast absolutely has to attract some attention. But your thoughts on the Lexington?
Well, the three that you mentioned all are going around 2 turns for the first time, right? I mean, none of them have run around 2 turns. And that's kind of what you're getting with the Lexington in a mile and a 16th. Yeah. It's kind of like this race over the last, we've had 9 of them since they went back to dirt in the spring meet at Keeneland. Of course, didn't have one in 2020 during the pandemic when they ran the summer meet. But the 9 that we've had have melted down quite a bit historically because these horses are either last-minute shots trying to get into the Derby, so they're hustling, everything's on the line. They're distance-challenged horses where $400,000 for a mile and a 16th is their Derby. Or they're horses who are like late to the party like this, who haven't had the experience going long and haven't had a chance to get on the trail yet and are jumping onto the trail. So you kind of get really a great mix for a meltdown race, right? I mean, all these horses that are either desperate, distance challenged, or trying something for the first time. And the average winner of this race in those 9 years that we talked about since they went back to the dirt is 5 lengths off the lead after the opening half mile. That is such a ridiculous swing of what we see normally. The average winner in a route race at Keeneland is about 1.5 lengths off the lead at the half-mile mark. This is 5 lengths off the lead. So this is a race where deep closers have had a lot of luck and horses you don't think would get there. Now, if there's a brilliant performance like we saw First Mission a couple years ago for Brad Cox, if there's a really good horse who's just kind of late to the party, they can certainly win this. I don't know which one of those horses in this race that fits. It could be Bullard, it could be Gosger, it could be Prater, but this could also set up for a big close, and I think we would get a price. Hypnus should get Luis Saez, or I think nothing against Brian Hernandez, but sometimes a jockey change shakes things up a little bit on a horse. They're also going to blinkers on. And Luis Saez back after 2 days on the sidelines from injury, won 2 races yesterday. So he got right back into the saddle, into the winner's circle. Of course, Kenny McPeek and Brian Hernandez, the reason the jockey change here is Hernandez is riding Thorpedo Anna down at Oaklawn in the Apple Blossom. So it might actually work out to the benefit of Hypnus to get a couple different changes here. The blinkers, the new jock, and boy, he's going to get a juicy pace to try to close into.
Yeah, that pace scenario laid out is interesting and may play into it. As I say, that debut effort was just kind of eye-popping, and then he's disappointed a little since. So I'm intrigued to see this afternoon on Hypnus. All right.
Well, remember, the debut with Hypnus, he was wearing blinkers. No, that wasn't blinkers net. So this will be the first time with blinkers on. Maybe he needs the LASIK too. That could be something which he doesn't have here. So we'll have to see with him.
Because he wasn't in the stakes that day, and so now he's been with. That may be telling as well. It's going to be interesting to see what he does this afternoon. Also on the card today, the Grade 1 Jenny Wiley. These are the ladies going a mile and a 16th. on the turf. I pulled up a replay of Kehoe Beach in here with the victory in the Mrs. Revere last fall. To me, there are a couple of fall turf races, the Fall City, but a couple of those races in the autumn at Churchill that are worth kind of paying attention to going forward. The Mrs. Revere is one of those, but besides that, the Wesley Ward Runner, 4 for 7 overall. This will be the seasonal debut and the 4-year-old debut as well. So I have that one in my mix. I used on top, I went with Sacred Wish for George Weaver, coming out of a close-up second in the Pegasus Filly and Mare Turf. Be Your Best, I think, is a real player for Safi. Excellent Truth for Chad Brown, making the United States or the North American debut after having been a European runner, is obviously intriguing. What did you see in the Wiley?
I saw a race that I couldn't really separate a lot of horses, so I went with the one that gets rid of the most common denominators or the most hurdles in that Kehoe Beach is just going to go to the lead. She might get a loose lead if Be Your Best doesn't go hard with her, and that just removes a lot of variables. Frankie Dettori won this race last year, wire to wire, with Buta Cache at a price. Dettori's back aboard here, and I just think they're just going to go to the front, and I don't have to worry which one of the Europeans is good. Excellent Truth, Choicia, Jabara all have excellent running lines. Which one of those translates to running here in America, I'm not sure. Respect all three of them. And then you got Be Your Best and Pegasus World Cup Turf winner against, Sacred Wish coming off a second in that race, where they were both knocking on the wire. I mean, they're very close and they're hard to separate, but they're both 0 for 2 over the turf at Keeneland. So which one can bring their best to Keeneland is a bit of a question for me. So the one thing I knew is Kehoe Beach won wire to wire over this course last year. She won a good race in the Mrs. Revere. That's usually a broodmare maker, by the way. Someday Kehoe Beach is going to sire somebody really good. Whoever wins the Mrs. Revere turns out to be an unbelievable broodmare. So keep that in mind for Kehoe Beach. But I just think there's less to worry about with her than the others. She's going to the front. We're going to see how far she can go at 1:16. Speed's been pretty good on the turf so far this meet, so we'll see if she can wire them. But not a hugely confident pick on my part, but I don't have to worry about what's going to happen in that race, I don't think. It's just a matter of whether or not she can last.
Well, you alluded to it. It's hard to have confidence in this race. I think you can make similar cases for many of them in here. It's going to be interesting to see how the odds shake out when they step into the gate. All right, let's shift our conversation. Again, you can check out Jeremy's Countdown to the Crown every Friday. Goes through the prep season with great insights there. And now we're heading straight towards the Triple Crown season, and things have shaken out. We have the points, and we know who's likely and who's kind of on the bubble. And let's start out going and looking at last weekend and talking about maybe a couple of bubble horses that are interesting, although one of them is essentially in at this point. The runners-up last week were interesting, and the winner of the Santa Anita Derby, and we're going to take a look at that here. Journalism clearly will go into the race as the favorite, deservedly so, off a couple of triple-digit buyer wins, including this win last week in the Santa Anita Derby. But Baeza, who I have the updated list from yesterday, now sitting 25 on the points list with likely horses that have stepped out of the mix being crossed off. So still needs some help for Baeza, but the sibling to Dornock and Maj would be interesting if that one gets in off the second in the Santa Anita Derby. Give us some thoughts on last week's race out in Southern California.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of a step back for journalism. He wasn't quite as brilliant as he was in the San Felipe, but, that could have been circumstantial for sure. He didn't need to be cranked to the hilt. He got kind of hemmed in the entire trip by Barnes and had to extricate himself. He got more education in that race than he did in the San Felipe, but I don't think he was quite as brilliant. But the front runners weren't as brilliant that day either. Barnes was tough on the front end in the San Felipe, whereas the front runner here in the Santa Anita Derby came back more readily. So he didn't have to be as brilliant. Baeza was a dogged customer and a new shooter into the sequence. He's obviously well-bred, but he was just coming out of the maiden race. So you didn't know what you were getting with him. I thought it was a good effort for journalism, not a great effort. I don't know if if you think he's pointing back downwards now, like if he peaked in the San Felipe, or if you kind of feel like this is a good experience for him, a recalibration. I think the workouts will be really important with him. If he looks like a monster working between now and the Derby, then I think, this race was just good education. He wasn't cranked. He got over the circumstance and still won despite all of that. If he doesn't work that well, I think you might have to start thinking about maybe he's not at his peak anymore. And really, I think, you got 2 works to find out with a horse like this. The work second before the Derby is going to be the important one. I think he's going to have one in Southern California, then one at Churchill. The one at Churchill is really not the important work. That's the one that's like a week out, and that's more of a maintenance work. It's that work 2 weeks, the second work before they go to a big race like that, and he'll have that one at Southern California. You'll definitely want to watch that work at Santa Anita, and you're going to want to see something pretty good there to see if he's going the right direction. I think he is. I don't think he's moving the wrong direction, but if he works just kind of lackluster, then you'll be concerned a little.
Baeza, your thoughts there? As I say, he stuck out on the list. You make the great point. Every week on the Countdown to the Crown, you have 3 things you won't read anywhere else. And you make the point that there has been a lot of consternation about the points out at Santa Anita with the reduced field. They had reduced points. Otherwise, Baeza would clearly be in. But you make the point. You get late in the Triple Crown Trail and, you're still flirting around in maiden races or first level allowance. Yeah. And then you got to get that last race has to work out for you. And if it doesn't, it's kind of on you.
It really is. And like you look, we got a maiden in the Derby and Publisher, right? I mean, he's running the stakes races and he got the points. So there are two ways you can approach this. And there were a bunch of 5-horse fields at Santa Anita. I mean, look at Journalism's running line. He's running against 4 rivals in almost every start except his maiden race. So running one of those things is a maiden then. I mean, like, ensure that you're going to get into Derby. If you're going to run 4 or 5 times, you can't only have one of them be a points race and then expect that you're going to get in. Now, I do think there's, the point reduction this year with the 5-horse field. I'm not so sure they're doing that right by reducing the overall number of points. I think you just pay or you just award points to the top 2 finishers in a 5-horse field or something like that.
That's a good idea.
But you keep them at this, you keep it at the same level. I mean, I don't think running second in the Santa Anita Derby is worth way less than running second in, the Jeff Ruby or something.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. That's just limit the places that get points. That's interesting. All right. Want to also take a look at the Wood because, the Baffert runners in the Santa Anita Derby, Citizen Bull and Barnes did not impress, but Rodriguez certainly did in New York on the front end. So we can anticipate perhaps some pace in the Derby, although that's always hard to predict, to pull a crystal ball. But as we watch the replay here, coming up on the outside is the Pletcher Rapoli runner that I liked last week. I thought Grande ran very well in career start number 3. And as I say, on my latest list of points, he's now sitting at number 20. So he could be a little bit interesting. Your takeaway from the Wood?
Yeah, it was better than I thought it was going to be going in. And the more I looked at the race and the more I reviewed it, I found less to knock about it, The only question would be is 4 or 5 horses all ran really good races in there, according to the clock and the way it looked visually. That might be a little bit hard to believe, in that respect, that they all ran as well as they did. So maybe it was a little bit track aided, that sort of thing like that. That would be the only concern. But certainly when you look down the line in that race, it was as visually good a race as we've seen, among the top 4 or 5 races we've seen this year by the winner. And the runner-up, Grande, just, he was ridden like he was, Secretariat or something, just, 5 wide the whole trip. And he ran a really good race. He's very interesting for the Kentucky Derby right now. I kind of get the feeling he's going to be our buddy Bob Newmeyer, the late great Newmeyer, his Shishi horse he talked about that everybody's whispering about for the Kentucky Derby, and that smoke horse that everybody talks about. I think it's going to be Grande because I think that last race was pretty impressive. And he'll probably train really well, and it's Pletcher, and I got a feeling he's going to get some hype up into the Derby, and he might be a shorter price than what we're thinking right now. Hey, he's a good long shot to be taking a look at. He might be one who's actually underlaid a little bit because everybody jumps on him. We'll see how it goes in that respect because there's always somebody like that. I think Sovereignty's going to get a lot of play come Derby time too. That people are going to be really, really impressed with him. So we'll see how we'll see how the gambling shakes out and how the training goes over the next 3 weeks or so.
Yeah, another runner-up, Sovereignty. He's the horse I have to admit I am kind of leaning towards at this point. I thought that's Florida Derby was a nice performance. Tapan Street, obviously, but got the jump on Sovereignty. And, down there you're up against it with his style. That may play out very well in 1.25 miles at Churchill. So I'm leaning towards him. But before we go, I wanted to get your thoughts on one more, because your top 20 list this week on Countdown to the Crown, you have Luxor Cafe second. I'm really intrigued to see where the betting public is going to go with him, because I agree. I think he's absolutely live. If folks didn't realize it, the UAE Derby this past week, Japan-based runners ran first and third. They were both coming out of defeats to Luxor Cafe. I think if folks watch the replay of the last race in Japan for Luxor Cafe, he powered away from the field. I think Luxor Cafe is very intriguing.
I do too. He's not coming out of the UAE Derby like some of the horses from Japan have in the past, but the horse who came out of the same race he ran in here, the Fukurio Stakes last time out, ran fifth in last year's Kentucky Derby, T.O. Password. So, everybody talks about how the third place finisher from Japan last year was so good coming out of the UAE Derby at Forever Young, because he was in that photo finish, but not far behind him was T.O. Password. This horse came home the last quarter mile about 10 lengths faster in that same stakes race that we saw T.O. Password come in. I timed them both from the top of the stretch home because I was like, wow, this was visually impressive. And then when I timed the other horse, T.O. Password, how he finished the year before, this was about 10 lengths faster. So he was sensational in that race. He's by American Sparrow. The dam side is, Chad Brown turf distance runners, Regal Glory. He's a half tube. And there's a lot to like about Luxor Cafe. We'll see how he trains when he gets over here. He's confirmed to come. He's going to arrive here somewhere in the next week or so, I think. And then he'll have to go through quarantine. The other horses from the UAE are already here. That they got on the ground in Louisville a couple days ago. So Luxor Cafe is very interesting. If journalism doesn't work well, and I've been on journalism all year, but it's the first Saturday in May. You only get one shot on that date. If he doesn't work well into the race, he's going to be 3-1. I could see myself taking Luxor Cafe on top. But if journalism works well, he's going to be my horse.
Yeah, it's very intriguing this year. We haven't talked about Sandman. Burnham Square got back on the beam this past Tuesday in the Bluegrass. It's shaping up to be a lot of fun. And you make a great point. It's one of those years where we're going to want to listen to some of the folks watching the workouts at Churchill to maybe get a little bit of insight. Jeremy, appreciate the visit. One
quick note.
Go ahead.
It looks like Flood Zone's going to be out. He's in the top 20, so that's probably going to bring Matticat Road in, which brings in more backward speed. So, a pace help probably there with Matticat Road getting in.
And that has been intriguing, too, over the past few days. And I think everybody who has kind of stepped aside, like Owen Almighty, I think they made the right move. They were saying Pat Day Mile after the Tampa win, and then they kind of changed, but now that's going to be the game plan. So it seems like everybody is maybe kind of not letting the siren call of the Derby influence them as much as maybe it tends to in some years. Jeremy, again, appreciate the visit. Again, people can visit Countdown to the Crown during the Keeneland meet. Find your picks on the website every day. Check out the YouTube videos the night before. But we appreciate the conversation, and good luck as we go forward at Keeneland.
All right, sounds good.
Appreciate it. Jeremy Plonk, again, Countdown to the Crown. And again, you can find not just the Keeneland preview on YouTube, but he does a couple of podcasts over on YouTube as well. You can check all of that out. All right, I'm going to take a break. As I say, coming up a little bit later will be Nancy Holthus from Oaklawn. We'll talk the two stakes down there and more, get a little recap maybe of Sandman and Quiet Side in the Arkansas Derby and the Fantasy. All of that in a few, but we'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll do some news and notes in the meantime, so stay tuned.
You like free money? Well, Capital OTB gives its players plenty of opportunities to cash in. At Capital OTB, there are so many ways for horse players to receive bonus dollars by simply participating in promotions such as our bankrolls, bounty bets, online handicapping contests, and much, much more. Plus, with Capital OTB's Player Rewards program, you get actual cash back. So what are you waiting for? Log on today at CapitalOTB.com or CapitalOTBBet.com and claim your free money.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. Let me alert you that at Mohawk Raceway today, there's a mandatory in the Super High Five. Some people like to jump in there. So that happens in the last race at Mohawk tonight. Keep that in mind. That's a mandatory payout today at Mohawk in the Super High Five. I know our man Shannon over in the marketing department likes to jump in with that occasionally, so keep that in mind for today. Also keep in mind on the sulky side, we'll continue on that topic because Monday we are live on the road with OTB TV. Should be fun. We'll be down at Yonkers. And post time 6:45, so we'll probably kick things off about 6:30 or so. Take you through the Yonkers card. Looks like we'll have a couple of special guests, at least, maybe more, but should be fun. Down at Yonkers on Monday, tune into the network as we will be live with cut-ins all evening long from Yonkers. Again, first post 6:45, so we'll kick off a little before that and jump in throughout the evening. But there's a bonus. There's a Yonkers bankroll for Monday evening. I'll be playing live throughout the day on behalf of the bankroll team. You can go to the website. Entries are currently open. Go to capitalotb.com, click on the promotions link, then look for that graphic right there. Click on that. You'll find an entry form. And I believe we close it tomorrow at noon. So you have until Sunday at noon to fill out an entry, and then we will randomly select the team. And as I say, I'll play on behalf of the team on Monday when we are live from Yonkers, and the team will split up the winnings at the end of the day, provided there are winnings. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but I will say the bankrolls over the past couple of months or so here at the clubhouse and online and whatnot, they've worked out okay. So we will certainly try to do more of the same on Monday night on behalf of the team. Jeremy mentioned it, but I had in my notes here, it was good to see Luis Saez, who earlier in the week went down. There were folks on Twitter who immediately said, "Oh, a horrific spill at Keeneland." And it wasn't really a spill. It was scary. I would say that because it looked like two horses bumped. And Luis Saez lost his balance and fell off. Subsequently, I read that the horse shied away. He was left-handed, and the horse shied away a little bit and then went. And so the upshot being, Luis Saez lost his balance. He fell off the horse. The horse then stepped on him. That was the scary part. The horse didn't fall, though, so I wouldn't qualify it as a spill. So, again, the folks on Twitter were kind of giving a different impression than what actually happened. So if you didn't see it, the horse ran off, and I believe the horse is fine. The horse never went down. But 1,200-pound horse steps on a jockey, you keep your fingers crossed everything's okay. They took the jockey to a local hospital for evaluation, and Luis Saez, his agent is Kieran McLaughlin, and he had tweeted out later on that day that they looked and he's sore, but there were no broken bones or anything. And he wanted to ride the next day. And Kieran said, "We'll see how that works out." And as it turned out, he took off a couple of days. But Luis Saez came back yesterday at Keeneland and won 2. So that was great to see that he rebounded nicely. So if you see Saez on your horses in the entries today, he's not only back, but he was riding very nicely yesterday. as well. Also alluded to it earlier when we were talking. Carlos Beckler looked very good. Chad has a very nice turf runner this year. Won the Maker's Mark Mile yesterday and did it about the quarter pole. Kind of hit the gas pedal and powered away very nicely. And I had the cold exact in it, and the Carl Spackler was short, but the exacta was okay if I'm thinking of the right race. Our play of the day hit yesterday too. It was a substitute play of the day, and that exacta was pretty good. Maybe I'm more thinking about that exacta, but that was like a $60 exacta with our play of the day. In the stakes race just prior with She's So Spicy was a short price, but then we had a 9-1 underneath there, and it made for a pretty good exacta. And as I say, it was a substitute play of the day because our original play had scratched. So happy with those results. The play was okay this week, although earlier we were running second, but they were offering a little bit of value in there. So play of the day you can catch on weekdays over on the social media platform, Twitter, essentially. Pulled up the recap sheet from Aqueduct. And again, we are just, shortly into the Aqueduct Spring Meet, but just to give you some thoughts, Manny Franco continues to ride very well. 10 wins after yesterday's program was finished. 8 wins for Kendrick, who hit that 4,000 win milestone a few days ago. Lane Luzzy, 5 wins. Lane on board. Butta, congratulations to our friends at Eddie F's Racing, as Butter gets a nice win yesterday, and Lane was on board that one. And running second in the same race was Bonaventure horse. So we had some local connections run very well on the Aqueduct card yesterday. But Lane with 5, Christopher Elliott with 5. He's the jock to kind of keep your eyes on. Tied with 4, Ruben Silvera and Dylan Davis. But Manny Franco currently leading. And on the trainer side, guess who? It's Linda Rice with 6. Todd Pletcher and Rudy both tied with 5. Brad Cox with 4, tied with 3. Chad Brown and Ilkay Cantramachi. So there's, again, we are just a few days into that spring meet, but that short spring meet, because sooner rather than later, essentially it's the Belmont meet. But again, a few days in, there are your leaders. And I talked about the leaderboard, points-wise, Kentucky Derby. And again, they update fairly regularly when horses are declared out by their connections. And so at this point, this was yesterday, Grande is sitting at number 20. So it looks like he is in. He was kind of on the bubble after the second place finish in the Wood the other day. And as Jeremy said, Matticat Road 21 and Flood Zone 16. And Flood Zone towards the end of the day was declared out. So Matticat Road actually moves to 20 with Flood Zone out. Grande now 19. That would make Baeza 24 now. We'll see how that works out. Because as you get closer, you can get horses that don't work well or maybe spike a fever or something. You can get those, but as you get closer, you don't get as many necessarily pulling out. So it's going to be still a chore for Baeza to get in. But again, as the sibling to Maj and Dornoch, he would be interesting getting in, particularly off that second place last week in the Santa Anita Derby. But we'll see how it plays out. And there was some, I kind of get if there's a smaller field, Churchill cut the points, and there was some consternation out on Twitter and various places of people, that's a bad move. Jeremy had a good idea. Maybe keep the points the same, but just award to first and second. That may be a better idea, because I also get the point. A lot of people are saying you're maybe penalizing California, where the fields tend to be shorter just because geographically, the East Coast, it's easier to ship around. And so I kind of get the argument in that direction. But I also get the point of short field maybe But as Jeremy said, is a second in the Santa Anita Derby really worth less than a second? And so I see both sides of it, and maybe it just needs a rethink in some fashion, like Jeremy said with his idea. Maybe something like that is a little bit more logical. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, again, big day down at Oaklawn today with Thorpedo Anna in the Apple Blossom. That should be a lot of fun. They have another stake on the card as well. So after the break, we will be joined by Nancy Holthus from Oaklawn. So stay tuned.
Coming right back, the American, the European, and it is the trickle in front. Trippolino driving hard, full out into turn to get him, and here is the winner, and the Africa has won it. Absolutely spectacular.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
And it's the filly winning colours. Gary Stevens going to the whip left-handed. Just one crack though. It's winning colours. Turning in an absolutely outstanding performance. We're looking at one exceptional filly.
You like free money? Well, Capital OTB gives its players plenty of opportunities to cash in. At Capital OTB, there are so many ways for horse players to receive bonus dollars by simply participating in promotions such as our bankrolls, bounty bets, online handicapping contests, and much, much more. Plus, with Capital OTB's Player Rewards program, you get actual cash back. So what are you waiting for? Log on today at CapitalOTB.com or CapitalOTBBet.com and claim your free money.
Welcome back, as promised before the break, on a fun afternoon schedule down at Oaklawn with Thorpedo Anna and the Apple Blossom. Who better to talk to than our friend Nancy Holthus, does the paddock commentary, the pregame show as well. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me on.
Happy to have you on again on a big day like this. Would have plugged in a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to have a little conversation about Arkansas Derby, but we were down at Gulfstream covering the Florida Derby, and that was kind of fun because we stuck around after the card ended, and then the little breezeway between the paddock and the track, there was a whole group of people sticking around to watch the big races at Arkansas, and that included Tommy Bellhouse and Jason Blewett from West Point. And so as Sandman came down the stretch, the place was rocking at Gulfstream, 1,200 miles away. We were enjoying the action.
I bet they were extremely excited, and people thought, "What the heck are they cheering at?"
Yeah, no, it was crazy. We'll hit on we'll do a little recap of that race in a few, but let's jump into today. First off, what's your weather look like today?
The weather could not be better.
Excellent.
It is probably 65 degrees, not a cloud in the sky, no wind, and we have earned it.
Yeah, no, it's not just you. It's really been kind of the whole country has been crazy this week. And also the postponement you had the other day, that was the same. It's crazy, but it was the same weather pattern that caused the postponement up in Kentucky. If folks look at national maps, that rain was hundreds of miles long. And so you're right. You guys deserve it, but not just you guys. Everybody got hit this winter.
Yeah, we were very fortunate that we were able to race on Sunday, and actually it started with a muddy track instead of sloppy, and a huge kudos to our track maintenance crew for being able to handle the weather that they did.
Yeah, you and I mentioned Keeneland earlier to get back on track after some of the weather situations. You have to give a hats off, obviously, to the track crews. They do a great job. All right, let's jump in. We'll start right out with the big race today, the Apple Blossom. I think a lot of people are looking forward to it with Thorpedo Anna, who, Ken McPeak has just managed this horse so well. Not only the races, but presenting her to the public up here at Saratoga last summer. He was announcing the workouts. He has kind of continued that. So I think a lot of people are excited. And I'm excited to hear your thoughts because it seems like over the past week or so, a lot of folks are talking about Where's My Ring as a legitimate contender coming in off the triple-digit buyer win. And we're going to take a look at this back in the middle of March. It's Where's My Ring, an optional claimer, non-winners of one other than, wins by 12-plus lengths, and a 103 buyer. So a lot of people are saying, Thorpedo Anna may have her work cut out for her with Where's My Ring. What are your thoughts in the Apple Blossom?
Well, I did get to see Where's My Ring school in the infield paddock the other day, and she definitely looks the part. But again, there's a big difference between an A other than at Oaklawn and a grade 1. But I personally think it's obviously Anna's race to lose. Brian Hernandez Jr. was my guest this morning at Dawn at Oaklawn, and obviously the confidence is there. Thorpedo Anna looks fabulous on the track, and I just can't say enough good things about her. But it's interesting that she has speed on both sides of her out of the starting gate. But you got to respect the fact that she's tactical. She doesn't have to come. She doesn't need the lead to win per se.
And Brian Hernandez, I had him on up at Saratoga last summer. He's great. So I'm sure you had a great interview this morning. Did he give any indication as to what his game plan will be?
Well, you know what? Honestly, he said he is just the passenger. He pretty much just lets Anna do what she needs to do, and he just doesn't want to get in her way, is what he said.
I don't blame him. Comes in off a nice bullet work down at Oaklawn. And she is going to be a lot of fun to watch, not just today, but throughout the year, as they say, Kenny McPeak. And I'm sure you would agree, and he's continued to do it down at Oaklawn. He has just presented this horse so well to the public, not just, as I say, race days, but on workout days as well.
Yeah, she's got a huge presence on social media. I follow her on X, and anytime that a horse has their own merch, you have to respect it. So, but yeah, I agree. I love the way that he has handled her and managed her and really made her feel like the people's horse.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the way it's playing out. Last year in the Travers, I had her, and I thought she was going to get up, and the place was going berserk, and it's just been fun to watch. And as I say, it will continue to be throughout the year. But this afternoon in the Apple Blossom, scheduled to go off our time here on Eastern time zone. It'll be about 6:48, your time, 5:48, race number 11. But a little bit earlier on the card, it's the Count Fleet. And I pulled up a replay of the likely favorite, not likely, the absolute favorite, Booth, coming out of a big win in the Whitmore back on March 15th. Booth is going to be the number 4 horse here, wins as the favorite with a 107 buyer, pairs up triple-digit buyers, having won a stake earlier in the meet also with a triple-digit. It's a Steve Asmussen trainee, and just over the past few years, he has been so proficient with the sprinters, including in this race. He's won this race 5 times. So Booth looks very good this afternoon in the Count Fleet. What were your thoughts?
Well, Booth is obviously hoping to follow in his sire's footsteps. Matoli, who won the Count Fleet as well. As you mentioned, Steve, really good with the sprinters. He's actually won the Count Fleet 6 times the last 3 runnings. And he certainly does look like the speed of speed and is very confident in this runner's ability. So, we did get to see a really good sprinter yesterday in the return of Skelly, and that trend looks to continue in the Count Fleet with Booth this afternoon.
Yeah, was there any consternation that they should have waited a day with Skelly? Because he looked great yesterday.
He looked the part. I mean, he looked like a push start Ferrari. I don't know if Steve wanted 3 in the Count Fleet, but I don't think he would have blown out a match. I mean, he did it well within himself, 109 and change. And I'm curious to see where he wills him back, if it's going to be at a stake at the end of this meeting or if he goes and does something great in Kentucky.
And again, he has been so good with the sprinters the last few years. I mentioned the 6 wins in this race with Skelly. Jackie's Warrior, Matoli. I mean, the Asmussen Sprinter Brigade over the past few years has just been phenomenal. All right, I wanted to go back a few weeks, alluded to it at the top of the interview, but let's get some thoughts on the Arkansas Derby. As I say, we were with some of the West Point. We were at Florida for the Florida Derby, and on Thursday, we were already there, and we were in the paddock for a West Point runner, Sorcerer Silver, who won and has a little promise as well. But Terry Finley was there, and I interviewed him, and he said, I'm headed to Oaklawn on Saturday. So Terry was part of the group representing down in Arkansas, but we had our own West Point contingent at Gulfstream, and it was a lot of fun. We'll watch the stretch run here. He gets his, pace setup that played into his style, certainly, but Sandman, the number 6 horse, closes. Publisher, the Maiden, runs a nice second in here. That was notable as well. And I will note, Sandman got a little wonky in the stretch, kind of went out a little bit and well clear of the second place horse, however. But it was a very nice win for Sandman. What were your thoughts coming out of the Arkansas Derby?
Well, he was super impressive, and Mark Cassey had said, in the Southwest, he just got really unlucky in the Rebel. He just wasn't able to put it all together, and said he's kind of a horse that's slow to come around. And as you said, we did see that when he lugged out really sharply with about a furlong to go. But luckily, he was clear, so he wasn't going to bother anybody. But I think he was helped by the suicide mission that the 2 runners out in front put on, with those just wicked fast fractions. They went 22 and change, 45 for the half. So it was certainly Sandman was going to benefit from those fractions early on. Yeah,
Cornucopian in that mix. And that Cornucopian held on for 4th is to his credit, given those early fractions. I will note running 3rd was Cold Battle. And to me, he's going to come into the Kentucky Derby a little bit overlooked, particularly given the 2 nice wins earlier in the Oaklawn meet. I'm intrigued with Cold Battle heading into the Kentucky Derby, and given the connections and whatnot, I think it would be a great story.
It's a fantastic story. I mean, the Rebel was Lonnie Briley's first graded stakes victory as a trainer. But, he's just this little guy from Louisiana, as is the jockey Juan Vargas. And there was actually a 1% chance that they were going to skip the Arkansas Derby and go straight to Kentucky. They're already on the grounds and have already got to work in Cold Battle. But I agree. I think he's going to get overlooked. He got overlooked in the Rebel Stakes. And you always got to root for the little guy, and I'm certainly team Cold Battle.
Yeah, I don't know whether the waiting to the Derby was going to be a good move, but Lonnie did say after the 3rd place finish in the Arkansas Derby, he said, I would have liked one more week. And an old school guy like that, I would have liked to have seen what he could have done with one more week.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's been around some really good horses his entire career. But I love the fact that I'm interested to see how he handles all of the Derby media, because I think he's going to become the media darling of the 151st Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, and being a guy that, as you say, it steps up and gets a graded win like that, I thought he handled the media like a pro, and he'll be one of the fun stories. And I want to note, also one of the fun stories on the trail, D. Wayne Lucas with that winner at Colonial, and I believe
American Promise.
Yeah. I believe you had him on your Dawn at Oaklawn recently, and folks can catch it on YouTube, correct?
Absolutely. And this morning I was fortunate enough to have some more Kentucky Derby connections from previous years. I had Brian Hernandez Jr. and Doug O'Neill, who are well represented in today's card. But yeah, nothing makes me happier than to see the coach at 89 still saddling Kentucky Derby contenders.
No, there was a point there where there was a shot he was going to have 3 of them, but he's going with American Promise. Enough points there. He adds another great storyline to it. And before we let you go, also wanted to get some thoughts on the fantasy. Again, that was also on the card with the Arkansas Derby a couple weeks ago. And I think we had a couple of players coming out of this race that will play into the Kentucky Oaks. We'll watch the stretch run here. It's going to be quiet side. Jose Ortiz on board. That was a big day for him. He was also on board Sandman. But Simply Joking ran very well as well, the number 7 horse here. I think both of these horses come out as players going into the Kentucky Oaks.
Yeah, I certainly agree. Was really happy to see a local horse like Quiet Side with local connections of Short Lease Stable and Johnny Ortiz get the W. And she's another who certainly looks the part. And it was kind of Quiet Side, Simply Joking by themselves, the first part of the race in that nice little duel. So, it's going to be a really fun first Friday in May.
Yeah, no question about it. That's shaping up. They aren't maybe as talented as the males, but they, at least when you look at the numbers, but I think it's a good competitive group that is going to make for a nice 3-year-old season going into the summer. Certainly the Oaks is shaping up nicely, and that was a great duel in the fantasy a couple of weeks ago down at Oaklawn. Nancy, as always, we appreciate the visit and the conversation. Great to hear that you guys are having some good weather for the big day today. We'll be sitting back and watching you here in the studio with the pregame and the paddock commentary as well. Oh, and pass on to Matt. As I say, I'm sitting here most days watching 3 or 4 different tracks, and when the pre-games come up, I like to check those out. You guys do a great job on your pre-game down at Oaklawn. It's not only informative, but it's very entertaining most of the time.
Well, thank you. He's kind of become like I have work children here at Oaklawn that I absolutely adore. And he's kind of become one of those, Mama Nancy straightening the tie, doing whatever needs to be done. So, I'm a big fan of Denny.
Yeah, very good. All right, Nancy, again, appreciate the visit. And we'll probably check in again before the meet ends, but have a great day today.
Thanks so much, and I look forward to it. Talk to you soon.
All right, Nancy Holthus from Oaklawn, again, on a really fun day with Thorpedo Anna in the Apple Blossom. And as I say, that's going to go out off our time at about 6:48, according to the Daily Racing Forum post times. But in that vicinity, going to be a lot of fun. And the Count Fleet looks like a nice little sprint race to see if Booth can. And being a Steve Asmussen runner, I would assume we will likely see Booth up at Saratoga as well come summertime. So, all right, I am going to wrap things up. But before I do want to remind you of, there we go. I was looking for my promo sheet. Some of the promotions and events coming up. We continue with Pick and Putt. That is in honor of the Masters, so you can come here to the Clubhouse Racebook. You can watch all the horse racing, obviously, but you can watch the Masters as well on our sports screens. But also put your name in the bin. We randomly select people throughout the afternoon. You step up to the putting green. If you sink a putt, vouchers, there's some merchandise and whatnot. You can get a chance to putt for prizes this afternoon and tomorrow here at the Clubhouse Racebook. I was out watching some of the putts. It's always a lot of fun. So come on down and take advantage of that today and tomorrow. Clubhouse Racebook. Today also, Fan Appreciation Day at Sportsman's Bowl. If you're a patron at the Sportsman's Bowl location in Schenectady, we would love to have you stop by so we can say thank you to you for your patronage. There's always some food and PPs, vouchers. There's a contest where you can win a little extra something. That's always a lot of fun. So Fan Appreciation Day this afternoon at Sportsman's Bowl. And don't forget, coming up on Monday evening, we will be live from Yonkers. Looking forward to it. We're likely to have some special guests, so tune in for that. And we will also have a bankroll associated with the visit down to Yonkers. You can sign up for your chance to get on the bankroll team now. Entries are open. CapitalOTB.com. Click on the promotions link. Look for that graphic right there. Click on that and fill out an entry form. Entries close, I believe, tomorrow at noontime, Sunday at noon. We'll select the team after that, and I'll play on behalf of the team live from Yonkers on Monday evening. And again, first post at Yonkers, 6:45. So we'll start our cut-ins here on the network probably about 6:30 or so. So we'd love to have you tune in and enjoy some sulky side action. Don't forget free PP. I think if you go to the Yonkers website, you can get free PPs, but we will certainly have them at CapitalOTB.com in our past performance section. So print up the past performances, play a little Yonkers along with us on Monday evening. Also, do let me remind you, speaking of the Selkie side, just want to remind you once again, there is a mandatory in the Super High Five at Mohawk tonight. So it's the last race. That's where the Super High Five is. And it's a fairly, I believe it's a reasonable increment that you can get in, but I will not delve into that because I'm not totally positive there. But regardless, you can put together a ticket and take a shot tonight because it is a mandatory Super High Five at Mohawk tonight. All right, I'm going to wrap it up, but we will be back. I'm trying to think of maybe an hour or so. 110 for Aqueduct today, and I think we'll be back an hour and a half or so for OTB Live for a Saturday afternoon as we'll look at some Aqueduct and some Keeneland. But again, Oaklawn, a big day today with the Apple Blossom and Thorpedo Anna. So it should be a fun afternoon, fun Saturday afternoon here on the network. Stay tuned for all of it. Seth Merrow wrapping up Racing Across America for Saturday morning. We really appreciate your tuning in. As I say, stay tuned throughout the afternoon. Great racing ahead. We'll see you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.